Hi everyone, this is Eloisa, and this is my literature review outline. My topic is Student Development Theory, a study of community college counselors, training and competencies. My first section, I will start with the history of the community college. The founding years. During the 20th century, that's when the growth of higher education grew, or had the most growth, particularly in the community colleges. The universities wanted the first two classes, which would be the freshman and the sophomore years, to have their own systems so they can focus mostly on research. So that's when they decided for the freshman and sophomore years to go down to the K-14 system, and eventually it became its own system. American higher education funding in the 1940s or 1960s, funding for the community colleges came from federal and state legislators to fund the expansion of the buildings, or building new community colleges, expanding, and also housing. Housing became a big thing during that time as more students were attending college, and now you had females and the addition for females to attend community colleges, as before it was mostly males who attended college. Then I'll go on to the community college students. What are their demographics? Who's the student who attends the community college? The purpose of the community college when it was developed, the education it provided, fees or services to the student while they were there at the community college, and the purpose of it serving the local community, as students didn't want to go out, didn't want to leave their community, their home, to go to the universities who weren't close in their community. Then I'm going to look at the California community colleges, the growth of the California community college system, which is the largest system in the country, and the funding that supports that system here within California. The next section is going to be the development of the student affairs. The early years, student affairs in the early years, the purpose of the profession was because faculty didn't want to have to be working with students. In the early years when students went off to college, there was a lot of misbehavior, behavior issues and stuff, and faculty didn't want to deal with that. So they wanted to focus just on research and teaching, and that's when the student affairs developed to find ways or staff that could work with that area, with those concerns of the students. There was after the early years, they went into the diversification period, and this was the changing imbalance in education. Now the regulations for student activities, faculty wanted different activities, regulations on what students could or could not do, especially because they were having difficulty with their behaviors. Also, during this time, the attendance of students increased. There was a lot more students attending college at this point in time. The residential halls were being built, and also the students, there was a much more diversity of students attending college. The community college in the early 1800s, the only individuals that attended college were the white males who could afford, if their family had money, then they were the ones, the well-to-do ones that could attend college, university, and they would always partner up with a faculty member. So student affairs was developed due to the increase of colleges, community colleges in particular, because the growth expanded really fast. My third section is important of theory in the profession of student affairs. particularly counselors. The first area would be the importance of theory. The studies that I've been reading indicate the lack of theory used when counseling students, and that counselors are not familiar with student development theories, yet they see day in and day out students. They indicate that it's very important for counselors to know or be familiar with at least a theory that they can use as they work with students and provide guidance through their educational experience. I'm looking at the background of community college counselors. What kind of experience and training do they have as counselors prior to becoming a counselor at the community college? Is there training particular in school counseling, or is it how diverse are the backgrounds? That actually is what I'm looking for. And then I go on to the counselor competencies of student development theory. Are counselors familiar with student development theories or the theorists? Do they know that they exist? If not, what is their method of, besides using their personal experience, what type of theory do they apply when meeting with the students? My section 4, I'm looking at 3 most popular theorists in theory of student development. These 3 theorists are the ones that are usually mostly quoted or in any of the research articles that I've been reading. Arthur Chickering and his identity development, which has 7 vectors. And the importance of his theory is students go through the 7 vectors or stages as they attend throughout their educational experience. And then Alexander Austin, his theory is the theory of involvement. He has 5 general categories. And his theory mainly is how involved is the student during the educational experience, as far as, with faculty, with their peers, with programs on campus. So there's 5 categories that these students get involved as they go through for them to be successful. And then Vince Tinto, his theory is of student departure. His theory, he believes, or he writes, that institutional climate and integration is important to student retention. So if a student is not involved or doesn't feel comfortable in the campus that he's attending, and he or she doesn't get involved in some type of student support program or with peers, there's a high likely that he or she will end up dropping out of school. Area would be, of course, the list of my references. I will list all my references that I'll be using for my literature review.